conspiracy theories about assassination attempts, but I guess that's too much to ask from The View. I mean, I gotta ask you, because they said it, are you aware of any plots from Elon Musk to push President Trump down the stairs?
Absolutely not. Let me be unequivocally clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show.
So White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt announced that the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office for not honoring the recent renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Take a look.
Imagine waking up thinking you're untouchable, then boom! Karoline Leavitt hands you a verbal eviction notice live on national TV. Yep, Whoopi Goldberg just had a full-blown meltdown that could make a toddler jealous. Was it epic? Oh, it was Shakespearean levels of tragic comedy. Grab your popcorn, because what started as a smug eye roll turned into the most outrageous public breakdown you'll see all week. Trust me, you do not want to miss this drama.
Trump's new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. The left pretends to be a champion of women until they find one who is a conservative. Once that happens, they love nothing more than tearing down women with the most petty and vacuous of insults. Leavitt appears to be a fierce operator, but she's also 27 and arguably quite glamorous. So of course, the kind and progressive voices at The View reacted to her appointment like this.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
This is the first.
Somewhere deep inside the echo chamber known as The View, a storm was quietly erupting. You could almost hear the tension crackling through the screen, like static electricity trapped inside a balloon of pure, unchecked ego. And at the center of this slow-motion disaster, none other than Whoopi Goldberg, the self-crowned high priestess of daytime TV righteousness, gearing up to embarrass herself in glorious, unforgiving high definition.
If you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts.
It all kicked off when Whoopi, armed with the smugness of someone who thinks being on TV automatically makes them right, decided to lob a few words at Karoline Leavitt, a name, by the way, clearly too advanced for Whoopi's two-brain cell echo chamber to process. Maybe she thought it was her big mic drop moment, a casual drive-by roasting. Maybe she imagined she'd deliver a take so scorching, Karoline would crumble, burst into tears, and post a public apology on TikTok. Spoiler, that's not what happened.
Young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges.
Instead, Whoopi sparked a public beatdown so brutal, so gloriously one-sided, it could honestly qualify for its own national holiday. Because Karoline didn't just sit there quietly, soaking up the drive-by shade like some poor intern fetching coffee for the cast of The View. Not even close. She fired back from a distance with the precision of a Navy SEAL. One smug jab from Whoopi was all it took, and boom, she accidentally triggered an airstrike she never saw coming.
So the White House Correspondents Association released a statement, and it said the White House cannot dictate how news organizations report the news, nor should it penalize working journalists because it is unhappy with their editors' decisions. And the AP is signaling legal action, calling this a violation of their First Amendment rights. Now,
and the best part? Karoline didn't even have to step foot inside that over-caffeinated henhouse of cackling hysteria. She watched from a distance, probably sipping iced coffee, rolled her eyes at the circus act, and delivered a response so sharp it left the viewcast looking like they'd just been hit by a bus full of cold, hard reality. You could almost hear the gears grinding in Whoopi's head the moment it hit her. This wasn't a soft target. Karoline wasn't going to wilt under their usual cocktail of faux outrage and dramatic sighing. No, she did what almost no one dares. She exposed The View for what it really is. A padded safe space where out-of-touch millionaires pretend to be average women while getting mad about things they barely understand. And when Whoopi realized the applause wasn't coming, that's when it happened. A total meltdown. Not a quiet unraveling, but a wild, full-body freakout. Wide eyes, frantic hands, and the kind of babbling that would get anyone else escorted out of a Target.
We had him go to the Oval Office yesterday, where I think he provided great answers. He was speaking in layman's terms, speaking common sense to all of you in the media, but also to Americans at home. But I would say especially to all of you in the media, because I think it's a real fallacy that there's this alleged lack of transparency when it comes to Doge. President Trump and Elon Musk have been incredibly transparent on what Doge is doing. There is an X account with the Doge handle. They are tweeting out what they are doing on a daily basis. They have a website where they are posting the receipts of the contracts that they are reviewing and the payments that they have stopped from going out the door. The secretaries of our departments have stopped from going out the door.
Imagine Whoopi flailing so wildly for a comeback she started stringing together random buzzwords like a malfunctioning AI. At one point, you half expected her to blurt out banana republic, climate crisis, patriarchy, all in one frantic sentence just to fill the awkward silence. Meanwhile, Joy Behar, the court jester of The View, tried to laugh it off with that nervous chuckle you hear when someone realizes they bet the mortgage on a three-legged horse. Sunny Hostin, always ready to contribute absolutely nothing of value, jumped in with a fact check so wildly off base it could have been typed by a broken GPS. And then there was Anna Navarro, frozen stiff like a malfunctioning Madame Tussauds wax figure, silently begging to be anywhere else. You could practically see her soul buffering mid-sentence. But the best part? Karoline wasn't even there. She didn't interrupt. She didn't shout. She didn't throw a single smug look. And yet, her mere presence, her existence, detonated their fragile egos like a glitter bomb of shame. Poetic, really. Spend years crafting a bubble where no one questions you, where the only hard questions are aimed at people you already despise, and then get obliterated by someone who didn't even make it to press secretary.
Conspiracy theories about assassination attempts, but I guess that's too much to ask from The View. I mean, I gotta ask you, because they said it, are you aware of any plots from Elon Musk to push President Trump down the stairs?
Absolutely not. Let me be unequivocally clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show.
Whoopi's meltdown hit its peak when she suddenly tried to pivot into educator mode, launching into a lecture about how Karoline's views were somehow dangerous. Because of course, free speech is only terrifying when it doesn't come from a studio teleprompter. She waved her hands, leaned in dramatically, and gave those exaggerated, "I'm saying something important" expressions that usually signal the start of the most clueless takes on daytime TV. But despite all the effort, the audience didn't roar. There was no grand ovation, just an awkward, scattered round of claps, like at a 4th grade band recital when someone drops a trumpet mid-hot cross buns. Even the crowd knew the illusion had cracked. Meanwhile, Karoline responded with what might be the cleanest, calmest takedown in modern media history. No shouting, no theatrics. It was a precise, ice-cold rebuke that dismantled The View's entire charade. Smug millionaires, lecturing working Americans on problems they helped create, pretending they're relatable just because they occasionally eat pizza. Karoline didn't just clap back, she flipped on the stadium lights, exposed every cockroach, and stood there watching the scramble. And Whoopi? She flailed like someone arguing with a GPS, insisting it's wrong, like a proud cat stuck in a paper bag, desperately pretending it's part of the plan.
Do know that you're walking into hostile territory, right?
Certainly do. And look, I think I'm well prepared for that. And I'm incredibly honored that President Trump has instilled confidence in me to speak on his behalf behind the White House podium. It's been an honor to have a front row seat to the greatest political comeback in history. And as you mentioned in your monologue, Sean, President Trump is putting together a brilliant cabinet of fantastic America First fighters, from Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who are going to cut the waste out of our federal bureaucracy, to Susie Wiles, who is going to serve as the first female chief of staff in history. Take that, Mark Cuban, to Tom Homan. No one better to secure the border than him.
At one point, Whoopi seemed to think throwing around bigger words would somehow overpower Karoline's argument, because when you're intellectually trapped, what better move than to shout demagoguery with the swagger of a Jeopardy contestant who just hit the daily double and suddenly realizes they don't even know the category. Joy Behar, of course, jumped in to save the moment with her usual brand of razor-sharp reasoning, yelling, "You're wrong!" without offering a single reason why. It was the kind of logic you'd expect from a toddler told they can't have ice cream before dinner. Not to be outdone, Sunny made her own attempt at a pseudo-intellectual pile-on, citing a study she couldn't name, written by someone she couldn't recall, on a topic she clearly didn't grasp. But hey, points for trying. Somewhere, a community college debate coach shed a single tear. But the most satisfying part, Karoline's response wasn't just a personal takedown of Whoopi, it was a full-blown expose of The View's decaying foundation. She said what every rational viewer has quietly known for years. This isn't a show for ideas. It's a vanity project for personalities who peaked during the Bush years and haven't updated their material since. The View doesn't empower women, it empowers the right women, the ones who echo the same slogans while sipping $8.00 lattes in Manhattan. Everyone else, good luck finishing a sentence before the flock swarms like pigeons on a breadcrumb.
Unequivocally clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up. They just paid $15 million to President Trump's future library. That's a great thing for the American people.
And it's not just the hosts, it's the entire View ecosystem. The lazy applause lines, the synchronized gasps, the unbearable self-congratulation after each episode, as if sitting around a table nodding in agreement qualifies as political activism. Whoopi's downfall wasn't just a verbal misfire, it was the fact that she truly believed her platform made her untouchable. She thought throwing a cheap insult at Karoline would win her applause and internet point. Instead, she exposed herself as just another overpaid celebrity grasping for relevance like a reality TV contestant freshly voted off the island. Even the post-show spin was a disaster. Rather than admit they got intellectually steamrolled by someone with better arguments and fewer Botox injections, The View's producers huddled together and released a limp PR statement about fostering spirited discussion. Translation, please ignore the fact that we just got wrecked on live television by someone who didn't even show up. And through all of it, Karoline stayed calm. No sweaty rants, no 3-minute monologues with dramatic applause pauses, just facts, logic, and a few perfectly aimed verbal napalm bombs. It made the View's panel look not just out of touch, but prehistoric. Like a tribe of Neanderthals discovering fire, screaming at the sky, and accusing the lighter of being offensive.
Attacking a woman for her looks or age isn't very progressive. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Garda. Kosha, particularly that last clip that we played, it was so condescending. The way that she was scolding her as if she was a schoolgirl, suggesting she needed to do her homework. I find it so hypocritical when these so-called, caring, progressive voices just turn so nasty like that?
Yes, and as you mentioned, with conservative women, there's a long list of that, both of Trump's previous press secretaries, females, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Kayleigh McEnany, other figures like his campaign manager the first time, Kellyanne Conway, Sarah Palin very famously had to bear the brunt of a lot of this. So people are used to that. I think in their bubble of the audience that The View speaks to.
The real tragedy for Whoopi isn't that she lost a public spat. It's that she accidentally exposed just how flimsy her carefully polished persona really is. Scratch beneath the layers of faux wisdom and soft-focused daytime lighting, and all that's left is someone desperately clinging to relevance in a world that's already moved on. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt didn't just win, she walked away with a full-blown victory parade built from The View's collapsing credibility. No yelling, no tears, no playing the victim. She stood tall, metaphorically, as the entire circus tent fell in around her critics. It was both hilarious and oddly inspiring. Honestly, at this point, Whoopi might want to retire from political hot takes and stick to what she's best known for. Starring in holiday specials no one watches until they're too tipsy to find the remote. Joy can keep laughing into the void. Sunny can keep misquoting invisible statistics. Anna can keep pretending she's not texting her agent during every ad break. And the rest of us will be right here, popcorn in hand, watching the most self-righteous show on television slowly, gloriously devour itself. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, is funnier than watching people who think they're invincible get absolutely demolished by someone they didn't even bother to take seriously.
Crazy questions from the White House podium. How do you plan to deal with it?
Yes, I absolutely will. I feel prepared to do that. I've been facing the media now, speaking on behalf of President Trump on the campaign trail for the past couple of years, and we are expecting the media to be hostile. However, Kayleigh, if you do talk to a lot of these reporters off the record, they will tell you they look forward to more press transparency and access. And while we will expose the fake news when they are fake, we will hold them accountable for their lies and smears of President Trump.
Karoline's mic drop moment was pure cinematic gold, a theatrical slam dunk so perfectly executed it belongs in the Hall of Fame for claps back. Whoopi, the self-anointed queen of hot takes, had just wrapped one of her most intellectually hollow rants, probably filled with vague hand gestures and her usual string of ominous, half-formed warnings about the state of America today, the kind of speech you could scribble out in your sleep with one hand tied behind your back. And then came Karoline, calm, unshaken, likely wearing a look of quiet disbelief that she even had to explain this in the first place. She dropped one line, just one, and it hit like a lightning strike. It was the kind of line that makes seasoned political pundits pause, blink, and whisper, "Did she just?" Oh, yes, she did. In a single sentence, Karoline took Whoopi's entire strong woman persona, wrapped it in a bow, and delivered it back like a surgeon performing a flawless lobotomy on Whoopi's ego. You could almost see the color drain from Whoopi's face as it registered she, the legendary Whoopi Goldberg, had just been outmatched and dismantled by someone not even physically present. The other View hosts scrambled to save face, but it was already far too late.
The behavior of Democrats last night was completely disgraceful and demonstrated how severely out of touch they are with the American public. It was the most shameful moment in the history of presidential addresses in that beautiful chamber. In what was supposed to be a unifying moment for our country, Democrat members of Congress instead screamed at the President of the United States, who was just overwhelmingly reelected by their constituents, walked out of the chamber, and worst of all, they disrespected the American people.
Whoopi, now looking like she was trying to decode a foreign language she'd never seen before, fumbled through a painfully weak attempt at recovery, and just like clockwork, The View's loyal PR team, those seasoned spin doctors, leapt into action faster than a cat in a room full of cucumbers. But here's the punchline. Their spin didn't just miss the mark. It detonated in their faces. No one was buying the spirited debate excuse. Let's be real. This wasn't a debate, it was a clean sweep. Karoline came armed with facts, composure, and sharp clarity. The View answered with meltdowns and tantrums that made toddlers in toy aisles look like Zen monks. Honestly, the more they tried to clean it up, the more obvious the disaster became. But the real tragedy? It's not just that Whoopi bungled the moment beyond repair, it's that The View's trademark brand of self-important, out-of-touch commentary had never been so completely dismantled. And the wildest part? It didn't come from a political enemy. It came from someone unafraid to speak plainly, without the fake smiles or Broadway-level theatrics that make The View feel like a backstage mess with a studio audience. The scrambling, the spin, the collapse. It all became one glorious slow-motion implosion. Whoopi set out to knock Karoline down, but Karoline didn't just stand her ground. She pulled the curtain back on the entire cast, and that right there is comedy in its purest form.